For all the literary detectives out there who like the thrill of solving a mystery, this video is for you. After reading so many psychological thrillers back to back, I seriously need therapy. 7 sessions for each psychological thriller book I read. One time I slept while listening to psychological thrillers and woke up in paranoia, yelling in my mind, he could be a killer. My love for psychological thrillers developed after watching movies like Gone Girl and Shutter Island and reading books like And There Were None. There's something seriously addicting about unraveling a mystery in psychological thriller books that's both unnerving and satisfying. Who's lying? Who's telling the truth? Can we trust this narrator? Should everything being presented to me as a reader be believed? For plot twist junkies, mystery lovers, and literary detectives, each of these psychological thrillers checks all the boxes. So in the last 2 months, I read in total 7 most popular twisted psychological thrillers. I would rank them in the end. So without any further ado, let the show begin. So let's start with Silent Patient because it is one of the most popular and highest rated book in this genre on Goodreads and many other platforms. So I had to see for myself what the fuss is all about, and I am not disappointed at all. I totally understand the hype. This is the only book where I wanted the antagonist to get away with everything. I was totally justifying the antagonist actions in my head. I was like, that was totally reasonable, that makes sense. This was my 8th psychological thriller book of the year, and I still couldn't anticipate the plot twist. I was totally disappointed in myself as a fake detective. The story is about Alicia Berenson, a famous painter who is convicted of shooting her husband 5 times in the face and decided to remain silent forever, and a psychotherapist who is obsessed with unraveling the mystery behind her unbreakable silence so that she could confront her past and work through her grief. My favorite quotes from the book are, "But let us not forget that while Alicia Berenson may be a murderer, she was also an artist. No one is born evil. As Donald Winnicott put it, a baby cannot hit the mother without the mother first hitting the baby." I believe the same is true for most people who go into mental health. We are drawn to this profession because we are damaged. We study psychology to heal ourselves. Whether we are prepared to admit this or not is another question. So moving on to my next read, that is Anxious People by Fredrick Backman. I would have never read this one if it wasn't for so many good reviews. I mean, who would read a book whose title starts with anxious? The whole book is so light, interesting, and tragically funny at times. Some of the moments I laughed so hard. There was barely a page that I didn't enjoy. It's a story about a lot of things, but mostly about idiots. It's a story about a bank robber who couldn't rob a bank. In the hindsight, it's a story about a crime that never took place. Literature is so good, and once in a while author would break the fourth wall and engage you in a story by asking thought-provoking questions in such a way that you wouldn't get distracted even for a second. Such a poignant collection of stories. This book was like therapy to me. The author touches all the sensitive topics that we as a society are afraid to talk about. Suicide, depression. My favorite quotes from this book are, "You're like the self-help book, but only in reverse. Addicts addicted to their drugs and their family addicted to their hopes. When the age gap is that big, you don't really have a sister, you have an idol." So my next read is The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. If you write the most popular psychological thrillers on Google, this book will be in top 3. This book is a perfect guide for learning gaslighting on a pro level. 3 female narrators telling their story from their own perspective and hiding all kinds of secrets. The ultimate twist was good enough to make you question if you really know the people around you. The story is revolving around a woman named Rachel who is struggling with an addiction to alcohol. She takes the same commuter train every damn day to her work, passing same set of houses, such that she has even started to feel like she knows the people who live in one of those houses. Jess and Jason, she calls them. Their life as she sees it is perfect. But one day she witnessed something shocking and she has to do something about it. She can't just turn a blind eye. That is not Rachel. My favorite quotes from this book are, "I have lost control over everything, even the places in my head. Hollowness that I understand. I'm starting to believe that there ain't anything you can do to fix it. That's what I have taken from therapy sessions. The holes in your life are permanent. You have to grow around them. Like tree roots around concrete, you mold yourself through the gaps." I've never understood how people can blithely disregard the damage they do by following their hearts. Who was it said that following your heart is a good thing. It is pure egotism, a selfishness to conquer all. The Girl on the Train is now a movie on Netflix. You can also check that out if you don't have time to read. Next up is my favorite, The Woman in the Window by A.J. I like this book for having so many good twists. It's also a movie now on Netflix. It made me question till the end. I was blown away by the ultimate twist when all my speculation went to shit. How did I not see that coming? I'm seriously disappointed in myself as a literary detective. This was my 6th mystery thriller book, so at this point there was barely anything that could surprise me to the core. But this book has definitely lived up to its popularity. The story is revolving around our female protagonist Anna Fox, who's unable to go outside, suffering from agoraphobia. She spends her day drinking wine and watching black and white thriller movies, and also spying on her neighbors. One day a new family moved across her home and she witnessed something she shouldn't have. Or did she? The narration of unreliable pill-popping agoraphobic alcoholic female protagonist with none whatsoever life of her own made it really hard to conjecture whether something happened or it was just some hallucination. Black and white movies being played in the background all the time adds more creepy to it. My favorite quotes from this book are, I think of Dr. Brillo in Spellbound. My dear girl, you cannot keep bumping your hand against reality and saying it is not there. My head was once a filing cabinet, now it's flurry of papers floating on a draft. After watching movie adaptation of this book, I was highly disappointed. Maybe because I was aware of all the twists. Maybe the visuals didn't live up to my imagination. I don't know. So my next read was Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. For the most part of the book, I was trying to figure out why the heck this book is so overhyped. And when I got to the end of the book, I realized the why. I've read so many psychological thrillers in the last 2 months, but for the first time, I felt as if the characters were real. The story is about the struggles of a mother and her golden girl who disappeared in a blink of an eye when she was 15. And even 10 years later, she has never lost hope of finding her. A dark mystery lies behind her disappearance, such that mother takes on a role of a detective and tries to solve mystery on her own. It is a poignant story of a sacred relationship between a mother and a daughter. My favorite quote from this book is, when I read a book, it feels like real life. When I put the book down, it's like I go back into the dream. My next read is my least favorite psychological thriller so far, The Wife Between Us. I was so unimpressed by the title itself. The same old cliche of a story. The wife, the husband, the mistress, like anyone could tell the plot of the story just from the title. But I was ready to give benefit of the doubt. I liked some of the bits in the book, but mostly it was only okay for me. It is one of those books you read just to kill time. I wouldn't wanna recommend this to anyone. It has very few elements of surprises, and I wasn't even taken aback by the ultimate twist. It didn't work for me. So my last book was I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Iain Reid. What the hell did I just read? That was my first reaction when I completed this book. Suspiciously innocuous in the beginning and gloriously creepy in the end. I thought it was psychological thriller and mystery, but it was more on the side of psychological horror. It is one of those mind-effingly thought-provoking in a very diabolical way. I've been getting this eerie feeling throughout the book, but in the end, it extends to its maximum intensity. The audio version of this book magnifies the creepiness to a level that it will stick with you at least for a week. The plot of the story is pretty simple. Jake and his girlfriend are on a road trip to go and see Jake's parents at their rural farm. The story is told from the girlfriend perspective, and inside her head we find out that she is thinking of ending things with Jake. Jake is perfect and smart and everything, but it's just time to move on. Except for the fact that we are on our way to whole meet the parents thing. I wonder what kind of madness is required to write this book so well. The author writing made me feel despair to a point that I was feeling that there is no escape from this darkness. Unfortunately for me, I completed this book in the night. My favorite quote from this book is, sometimes a thought is closer to truth, to reality than an action. You can say anything, you can do anything, but you can't fake a thought. So if I would be completely honest, I would keep I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Iain Reid at the top, and at the second place I would keep 2 books, The Woman in the Window and The Silent Patient. At the third place I would keep The Girl on the Train, and at the fourth place Anxious People, and after Then She Was Gone, and at the last none other than The Wife Between Us, for the obvious reasons. Alright guys, that was it for this video. It was a hell of a 2 months for me, reading all these psychological thrillers back to back. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.